2024. So in this video, I want to talk about why self-care isn't working for you. And if you're watching this video, presumably self-care isn't working for you, because I don't want to argue against self-care. Self-care is amazing, it's great, we love to rest, we love to love ourselves, all important, all beautiful. And in my experience, self-care is amazing and it takes you to a certain level, but then at some point you need something else. And that's what my thesis for this video is. If you're someone who has learned to be, or you've adapted to be very hyper independent because you learned really early on that essentially you had to take care of yourself, other people, you couldn't rely on them to take care of you. If you're that kind of person, then self-care can be a way that you just reenact your trauma response. You use this language of like,
no, I'm doing something good for myself.
This is actually really healing.
You really just use it as a way to not get to the root of the trauma, which is that when you were really vulnerable and when you really needed support, you didn't get it, and it was really painful and really scary and really overwhelming. So that's what we're gonna talk about in this video today. Part of me is like, why? Why did you pick trauma healing? I started reading The Body Keeps the Score. I referenced on this channel before and I was like,
I get the gist of it.
I was like, oh, it's one of those books where just reading the title, you get everything you need to know. The body is keeping the score. I was like, bet. No, it's not like that. This is also what I was doing on New Year's Eve, all right? Literally it was 11:30 p.m. The way it humbled the F out of me. I'm gonna pause because this is a rant. And before we go any further, I just wanna say thank you to my Patreon people. I actually just recorded a Patreon exclusive video cast just for them. If you're on the Patreon, thank you. But I was reading this book literally ringing in the new year. I did pause and do a dance party in my living room, which was amazing. So I truly rang in the new year dancing to Hosier. Of all the things, some people really like tennis and mine is trauma healing, and it's so intense and it's so heavy and my personality is so joyful. And I'm like,
why am I not talking about joy?
But it's because, of course, it's through healing, it's through releasing all this stuff that you get to access more and more joy. So that is why I'm here talking about it. So this is the first reason why self-care isn't working. So if you are a baby, you literally cannot rely on self-care. You need to be cared for. You need to be held, you need to be fed, you need to be hugged, you need a roof over your head. And these are things that the people in your life, your caretakers, they are the ones who are like, yes, we are so invested in you as a baby and in your survival that we are gonna do all of these things. We are going to care for you. And then in the experience of being brought up in all of this care, you understand that you are worthy of that care and you are open to it and you continue to receive it. And that's one thing The Body Keeps the Score is really amazing about, is that this book is just like, this is the data, this is the research that shows what we are talking about, which is that when you are raised in an environment that's caring and loving, it will have incredible impact, incredible effects on your life as an adult. And if you don't have that, and if you have the opposite, which is all this trauma, that's gonna show up in your life and in your body too. And it's very undeniable. I, as someone who grew up one of 6 kids, I read somewhere that there are supposed to be 4 adults to every 1 child. And then I read somewhere else, or I just saw this on Instagram, who knows if it's true. Some guy said it though. He said that apparently humans need 12 hugs a day. I have not been hugged once today. Can you imagine? My dad is a cab driver, so he was out of the house a lot of the time. My mom had various periods of just sort of not being present. As someone who talks about their personal life and childhood on the internet, I'm trying to be really careful about how much I share, because I know this is my story, but it's also my parents and my family's story, and I want to honor that there may be stuff about their life that they don't actually want me to put on the internet. And so I'm trying to be very mindful of that. Which is to say, I grew up learning to take care of myself. And it's so y'all know, it's really painful, being that kid, in kindergarten, every other kid is being picked up from school and you're just waiting there
okay, well.
And the teacher's looking at you all sad and you're like, oh, okay. And so I remember one of the earliest things I learned to do was how to walk home. Not in kindergarten, but I learned how to walk home from school. I learned how to always not be reliant on other people. That self-sufficiency and that ability to be a go-getter in that way really served me, And it's a very masculine energy, the energy of doing and acting action, and it really, really served me. I was the valedictorian in my high school, got a full ride to college. Every job, every like professional job I've had, I always have gotten promoted. I was very much this like ambitious climbing kind of person. Even my YouTube channel, as I was like getting ready to make this video, I was like, you need a lot of self-motivation to have a YouTube channel. You need to be like, okay, I'm committed to this, and you need to show up for yourself every single day. What I've experienced both in YouTube, but also in my jobs and also in, you know, other areas of my life, is that I always burn out because I'm actively going, and I'm never pausing to receive care. And I will do self-care. I love me some yoga. I love me some breath work. I've done a very intense trauma healing program. Like, I've done all of these things, especially once I started to realize, like, okay, this way of living really isn't working out for you. So you need to actually like do something different. What I found is that even within those containers, I always kind of had that protective barrier up. And we'll take that to the second reason why self-care isn't working for you. Defending yourself against the energies of other people is actually what's helped you stay safe. If you had only experienced people coming at you from love, you would have no reason to have boundaries up, obviously. But clearly you had some experiences that taught you, oh, if I am open to other people bringing whatever they want to bring my way, some of what they bring is really gonna hurt me, and I'm really not interested in experiencing that again. And so what I noticed is that even in spaces that were very loving, very healing, very supportive, I still always had that guard up of like, well, love that for you and for us, but I'm just not gonna actually get too close. And I remember when I was in my trauma healing program, hanging out with an awesome friend of mine, and we were finished hanging out, and she was like, I love you, Chimdi. And I was like, great. She was like, did that land with you? Like, she could tell. Oh my gosh, that's another thing about The Body Keeps the Score, is the more you know about trauma, the more you see that everyone is always telling their business all the time. Like, you are hiding no secrets from anybody. And when I left that program early, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, you know, we miss you, we miss your presence in the field. And it was the same thing where like, I heard it and it landed just so far, and then I was like, we can stop right there. We can let the love stop right there. It was only recently where I actually let myself understand, like, Chimdi, you're great. Like, you have an amazing personality, an amazing energy. You're beautiful to be around. Imagine someone getting to know you and then you suddenly like dipping. They would miss you. And I was like, oh, like it really landed in a way it never had before. The point I'm trying to make with this video is that you've poured a lot of love on yourself, just you on yourself. The next thing you need to do, in my opinion, is you need to move to receiving care, like care from the outside world. A seed cannot grow on its own. The seed needs the light and it needs the water in order to grow. And one of the most powerful conversations I had with my spiritual teacher was based on that. You know, I was talking about the impact I wanted to make, and he was saying, you need to let people in if you want to make real impact. And I love to watch time-lapse videos of like herbs being grown, basically, and it's so cool because you literally get to see the seed sprout and the roots go deep and then it kind of shoots out. My spiritual teacher would use the metaphor that, you know, trees with big crowns, they need really deep roots. To think that you're gonna have this big impact, really make a difference in the world, but then you as the tree are not deeply rooted in the soil, you're literally setting yourself to be knocked over whenever there's a storm. And I think that's what burnout is, right? Is that you don't have the roots, but you're trying to do all this stuff, and then you get overwhelmed by life. And so I wanna share two of the ways I personally am allowing more actual care into my life. Hopefully they inspire you and give you something to consider. First way I'm getting care is through a coach. So I am a creative coach, and I help artists and YouTubers show up consistently and authentically. It's been amazing, and I've helped so many people. And I love it. What shifted for me, it was actually Christmas Eve. I remember I was reading this book. It's the follow-up to I Am the Word. It's like the next in the series. It described how the spirit team that I'd created and all the angels and saints and all of the like spiritual support that I had, that it would be with me for the rest of my life. And I went most of my life not really having a sense of being supported spiritually, like in the sense of like, I can really trust, you know, that God isn't just like answering my prayers some of the time and isn't actually like judging me or saying do better, but is actually like fully on my side. And there are all these angels and saints who are like fully on my side, loving me, rooting for me. I spent most of my life not having the understanding, and truly only in the last like year and a half has that even been a like concept. And it hadn't occurred to me that I would now forever have that resource. And what it did in me reading that, it helped me understand the abandonment and like lack and scarcity I had around support, where it was like people can help you for a second, they'll help you for a minute, but there isn't that reliability, there isn't that consistency. And so to understand like, no, girl, from now until the day you die, you will have a spiritual team that is rooting for you and loving you. It like totally unlocked something in me. And I'd had this company that had been reaching out to me like consistently, like 4 emails. I was like, y'all get the hint, I'm not responding. To be like, hey girl, do you need some support with the YouTube channel? And I was just ignoring it. And then after that process, I was like, what was that company talking about? And so I got on a call with them. And I think how they got me is that the original thing they were trying to sell me, which was like a more like full service like production studio, they were like,
Yeah, girl, you don't really need that, and low-key you can't afford it.
but we do have this coaching program that I think you could really benefit from. And I was like, all right, yeah. And also, you know, the vibes were good and all that. And what I found is that when I am in alignment, things happen really, really fast. So it literally was like me finally responding to their email, setting up time with a person, getting on the call, and then 2 days later, me like having my first coaching session. One of the things that my coach helped me with, one was that my discovery calls are now free. I used to charge for my discovery calls because I basically just coach on my discovery calls. Like my discovery calls are like,
let me just coach you for 30 minutes. And if you like what you got, here's my 3-month program.
So just in conversation with my coach, she helped me understand like the power of the impact you're making, the power of the research you're getting and what you're learning about your own audience, And I was like, all right, fine. They're free now. And also on my website, before I linked to my Calendly where you would schedule the call. And I had tried to actually embed that Calendly form into my website, couldn't figure it out, gave up. Gave up! Did not do any troubleshooting, did not do any Googling, gave up, and found a workaround instead. That as a way that I move through the world was not clear to me until I had this experience with my coach. And then I read about that exact same thing in The Body Keeps the Score, which is how when you aren't supported and cared for and loved and encouraged, when you run into challenges in life, you will just give up. He was like, let's embed that. And I was like, oh, I tried and it didn't work. He was like, let's work on it right now. And I'm like, all right. And then boom, 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 boom. There it is embedded, which was already like a very shocking moment. I was like, wow. But it helped me understand like there are things in my life that I have given up on that if I had just had someone to be there for me and to help me and to support me, I could have succeeded in and I could have gone really far in. I'm feeling the beginning of emotion start to come through when I say that, because that is a really vulnerable and painful thing to really think about in your life, all of the times and all of the opportunities where, you know, you were just trying to go at it alone and you weren't supposed to go at it alone. And if you just had someone there supporting you, it could have been different. It reminds me of this scene in the TV show on Netflix, Sex Education, which is one of my favorite shows. Our character is talking to a mom. The character is basically about to give up on something. And the mom says, I can tell you've had to raise yourself and you've done a really great job. But I think this is one of those moments where you just need someone in your corner to tell you that you are great and you are talented and you can do this and you really shouldn't give up. And it really landed in me because I think in that moment I understood how dramatic the difference is for the people who have had that kind of support in their life from a very young age and still do. And then the people who didn't even understand that that's how it could be, much less that that's how it like actually should be. The other major way that I'm getting support is through the trauma healing program that I quit. So there was a practice group that formed. It's like people who are in that program and who are familiar with that program's work, but it's not like ran by that organization. And we literally just get on a call every Thursday for 2 hours. We meditate together and then we get into triads and we practice communicating transparently, which means that instead of talking about, so being in your head talking about something, you actually are dropped into your body and you're speaking from your experience, and you're getting to practice people similarly being in their body and really listening to you. And just the power of that is so profound. The Body Keeps the Score talks about it as well. All trauma comes from, you having this really intense experience, and there isn't someone who can just meet you and attune to you and help you release whatever fear or overwhelm or grief or whatever else came up in that experience. It's when you are dealing with it alone that the trauma stays in your body and replays itself for years, if not decades after. When you just have someone to be there with you and to be like, do you feel that I'm listening, that I hear what you're saying, and that what you're saying is landing in me? It makes such a tremendous difference. To be honest, I knew, because my coach is a guy, and so I knew like just this experience of actively receiving support from a man would trigger the F out of me. And I would need a community of people to hold space for all of the emotions that would come up so that I wouldn't be taking this sort of triggered energy into my coaching and actually allow that support and that coaching into my life. When I left the program, I left that group, and as soon as I was ready to say,
hey, I actually need some support again,
they welcomed me in with open arms. And that was a reminder to me that the care is always there. It's just waiting for you to receive it. I just started following this woman, Marie Manuchehri, I think is how you say her last name. She is a psychic and an energy intuitive kind of person. And I watch her podcast here on YouTube where she has people call in. She attunes to them and like gives them some kind of guidance. And so consistently, the guidance comes down to you are not receiving enough love and energy and support and care. And the way to do that is to just pause and just imagine like light and energy just like coming into your body, and to just do that regularly every day. And I'd say the thing that has really helped me practically in terms of getting to the point where I could receive the care, because if your experience has been that people are dangerous, then of course you're not gonna, seek it out. And you shouldn't seek it out because you'll probably attract that same situation you experienced before. So more danger. What got me to the point where I could actually receive care in my physical 3D world was to practice receiving it on the energetic level. I have a spirit team. I'm constantly referencing them. There's like 5 or 6 different folks on there. And of course, angels and saints be coming through and stuff. One of the people on my spirit team is the energy of Hosier, And I was talking to my coaching client and she asked me like, what role does Hosier play? What role does Hosier play on your spirit team? And at first it was very intellectual. I was like,
he's so successful and grounded and talented. And
I was like, wait, hold on. Actually, the truth is when I am feeling sad and scared and alone, I connect to his energy. And I just imagine him playing me a song. Like I just imagine him like singing to me. And that acts as a lullaby to like my young toddler self. And that energy of just like someone just singing you a song and calming you down, that has been very healing for me. And so literally just every day connecting to my spirit team, imagining them listening, loving, supporting me. I did a meditation, or I did the Shavasana at the end of a yoga practice the other day. You're just kind of lying there in corpse pose and you have your like hands, outstretched. I imagine that all of the members of my spirit team just took turns like holding my hand and just giving me a little squeeze and just saying like, love you, Chindi, we love you. Just like imagining all of that love being poured in. It's been super intense, and it's just me sitting alone with my imagination basically, and getting to the point of like really allowing myself to feel these really intense emotions of like the times when I needed love and didn't get it, but the fact that I am in fact receiving it now, that support actually does exist now. I feel like I could talk about this for a long time and this video is getting kind of long, but I do want to shout out Josiah. He's someone who I met via YouTube, and it was being in conversation with him that actually got me to this point of understanding that I needed and wanted care. I was referencing, moving to New York and having some resistance to the like masculine energy that I feel New York has, and how like I want to be there, but I'm also kind of judging it. First he was like, sounds like you got a masculine wound you need to heal. And I was like, you telling me? And then he was like, but Chimney girl, like, you are so masculine. And I was like, I'm working on it. I am working on
embodying the feminine, all right?
And I know that my relationship and challenge to care and to the masculine and feminine energy and all of that is just a microcosm of what's happening in our collective. And so that's why I wanted to make this video, even though it's still very alive for me and it is still super scary for me. It's because I was like, I know I'm not the only one going through this. I hope that my experience can be of service. If you want support showing up consistently and authentically, you can put some time on my calendar for free. Thank you, subscribers, for hanging out with me in this new year. Wow, what's gonna happen? Let's find out together. I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be really good. Okay, bye.